Africans stand up. Your Saturday just got more exciting as Artiste Novo, aka your musical plug, creator of the energy, present to you Cha-Cha Music Review Podcast. A music review podcast that critic, review, analyze, and rate new songs from top African artists on a weekly basis. Whether you're from Ghana,
Nigeria,
South Africa,
Kenya,
Tanzania,
Benin,
Lesotho, Botswana, Rwanda, or even in the diaspora, Cha-Cha Music Review Podcast is your guide for the newest African sounds. Cha-Cha Music Review Podcast by Artiste Novo, amplifying the African sound by bringing the best of African music to your ears.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and my amazing members of the Cha-Cha Nation, it is me, Artiste Novo, aka your musical plug, creator of the Energy Force, and I'm back as if I never left with another episode of the Cha-Cha album review series on the Cha-Cha Music Review Podcast. And today I will not be alone. I have an amazing and incredible guest in the compound with me. Yes, without wasting much of your time, let me allow my guest to introduce herself.
Hi, Cha-Cha Nation. What's up? What's good? My name is Chi Amaka. Yeah, I am a PR professional, and I'm also a very, very big lover of music, particularly the one and only Stan. I don't want to give out his name yet. I think Cha-Cha should, which is why I'm on this pod, and welcome everyone.
All right. Thank you very much for being, on the podcast, Chiamaka. It's a pleasure, having you here. Today, we will be talking about the latest album, which also happens to be the 6th studio album of Grammy Award winner Burna Boy, aka Oluwa Burna. And this album is titled Love Damini. Before we go into what the album is all about, let me just quickly give some little information about the album. So the album was released on the 8th of July 2022. Before the album released, we had 2 singles of the album. The first one was Kilometer and second one is Last. The album features artists like Ladysmith, Blaxx, Mambazo, you have J. Hughes, you have Victoni, you have Popcaan, you have Blxst, you have Kehlani, you have Ed Sheeran, you have J. Balvin, and you have Khalid. Now the album was produced by The Elements, P2J, Telz, Danitello, MDS, Chopstix, Kel-P, Off and Out. You have Ruuben, you have King Vinci, you have J5, you have Anju, Blxst, you have Smith, you have Blxst, you have Sellars, you have the Monsters and Strangerz, you have John Bellion, you have Evan Said, you have Noble, you have Kleinman, you have Uzowuru, you have Skread, and you have ATG. Now, those are the producers that work on the album. And the album has a length of 60 minutes and 34 seconds. Now, Chiamaka, let me ask you this. When you listen to the album for the first time, like the first time you listened to the album, what was your impression or what came to your mind?
Honestly, I think I'm always going to give the same answer for every Burna project because I'm a very huge fan of Burna. I've been a fan for the longest, right? So when I first heard Love Damini, it was like, wow, like just wow, right? But I think there's a problem with me as a fan, and I think a lot of people also felt the same way, in the sense that the first listen wasn't as good as subsequent listens. I don't know if that makes any sense. So remember the Twice as Told that he dropped in 2020, right? Yeah, 2020.
Yeah.
Twice as Told 2020, it had all them, tracks like Bank on It, Onyeka, I was just really expecting that kind of vibe, that African vibe, even with songs like Wonderful. So I think I was like expecting a sequel to Twice as Tall, but then this one had like a more, I don't know, it went for a different vibe. I feel like the first listen it was good, but it wasn't as good for me as Twice as Tall. But then when I listened to the songs a second time, I was like, okay, my goat knows what he's doing. He definitely knows what he's doing on this album. So yeah.
And I'm not going to lie to you, I think I kind of feel the same way. When I listened to the album for the first time, it felt as if there was something off. Like I didn't instantly connect, to the album immediately.
Exactly. I even felt like there's some mid songs there. Yeah.
Then I listened to it for the second time and the third time. I'm like, okay. I think now I understand where it's coming from, and now I understand, where it's going to. Now that we've spoken about, our first listening, second and third listening, and all of that, let me ask you this: in terms of the production of the album in general, how would you rate the production? Was it superb? Was it below par? Was it above par? What would you say about that?
I would say it was on par. I wouldn't say it's above par because, again, I still kind of find myself comparing this album to Twice's Tour, and I'm not sure the production of this entire album matches up with Twice's Tour, in my very opinion. But it was just par, it was just like normal Burna Boy good standard. But I don't think he outdid his Burna Boy good standard, if that makes sense.
Okay, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. One thing I don't like to do, and I will want to do, is compare this album to Twice as Tall and African Giants. Although I have a feeling that I'll still find myself comparing the two albums, but for now, don't let me do that. In terms of the production, for me, I feel like the production were, they were solid. There were some tracks on the album which I really, really enjoyed the production. And this is going to carry me into, some of the tracks that I like on the album. I think the first track I like on the album has to be Cloak and Dagger. I don't know, for whatever reason, I love the production of that song, and I also love that song. Another song that I like is Whiskey. I love Whiskey so much. I also like Last. I mean, I'm not even going to lie. This, for me, is my favorite song of the album. I'm also going to mention Dirty Secrets and Common Person. So for me, those are the songs that, I'll pick, from the album that I really love. What about you? What song will you say stood out for you on the album, and why?
First of all, when you were mentioning your list, I was like, okay, this guy, we're flowing, because your list is almost similar to mine. Like very similar to mine. I think the song I first liked on first listen in the album was Science. And I liked Science because of the transition from Glory to Science. Like, I don't know, it's such a beautiful transition, right? There's a difference between listening to songs as songs and listening to them in sync in an album, right? Mm-hmm. So those little transitions, you get to pick it up faster. And when I was listening from Glory and then that transition into Science was just boom, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm flowing, I love this. So I think I would say Science for me, although it's not my number one. But I also say Cloak and Dagger. Cloak and Dagger was like, I don't know, this is not the first J-Hus Burna Boy collaboration they are doing, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, he also did some in Common Sense, J-Hus's own Common Sense. And, J-Hus coming again to do this Burna Boy thing, I was so happy because I feel like Burna and J-Hus have this synergy that is just unmatched, And yeah, they always flow really well. So I was expecting a lot from that collaboration. And yeah, it lived up to my expectations. Even now, I would say that Cloak and Dagger is a song I can just listen to, just listen and just, I don't know, it's on repeat for me these days. So yeah, Cloak and Dagger. Then funny enough, I would still say Kilometer, right? Because I know that, yeah, the hit single came out months before this album. It came out before last, right? But then I kind of like it because, like I said, listening to songs in sync as an album just makes the experience different. So when I was listening to Kilometer, there's some certain punchlines like Blow Your Mind like Afghanistan, or everybody hates on me like Chris. Like I didn't even pick up all these like little punchlines. But when I heard them, I was like, this is Burna Boy is just a lyrical genius, right? That was what I had to say on that track. So it made me fall in love with Kilometer again. There's also Whiskey too. Really for me, Whiskey, I would say I just like it because of the storytelling method it had. Sampling of audio clips from reporters of victims of the Blaxx crisis in Port Harcourt, right? So
yeah,
so sorry, I can go on and on and on with this, but I really just love Whiskey because of the storytelling method, and I think he really imputed that more with his African Giant album, especially with Another Story, right? So when I was listening to Whiskey, it sort of brought me back to Another Story. I'm like, I think I would like more songs like this from Burna. So Whiskey was there for me. Different Sides by Victoni, because I don't know, for some reason Burna Boy. Yeah, true though that, and then the whole Squid Game vibe, and I think also the fact that he's just, I don't know, I like the way Burna is trying to make some of his songs like TikTok hits. He intentionally did that for Last. He's now doing that for Different Sides, and it feels like a good route to go, although some people wouldn't like it, but I would say it's going to bring in more longevity for him. And of course, I mean, for Nigerian men, who doesn't like Bongo? So that's Different Sides is a nice one. And I mean, there's Common Person. Ever since it dropped, we've been seeing so many people on the TL jamming to Common Person, and I think it really, Burna Boy, I think one thing Burna Boy's management and team does well is to pick out songs, or rather write songs that are also for the average Nigerian man to vibe to and to connect to. So with Common Person, it tends to give up that vibe that we are not alone in the suffering, we're not alone in the grand scheme of things, even though with the way Nigeria is going, inflation rates increasing on an almost weekly basis, but we are not alone. We are all common people here in this country living the same crisis, right? And it sort of brings about this connection of Nigerian people, and that's why I really love it. And I think that's why TL loves it too. It's the only thing I really find weird about it again is that I feel like Burna sort of tries to really, really, really copy Fela a lot, and it sort of like plays out to him, because I mean, over so many years, since he started this, or since he started this whole Fela vibe, people have always been saying, you are copying Fela, but you don't exactly live up to his standards, you don't exactly live up to the way he was, right? And I feel like personally, I have mixed feelings about it, because while Burna and Fela are just two different artists in two different eras, I also just feel that Burna shouldn't copy Fela so much. I mean, we love the vibe he gives off. We love that he can sample him and do it well. But I just feel that Burna should try to like make his own signature from his own self, not from a Fela style kind of signature. I think he should bring up his own signature from his own self. If that makes any sense,
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. You are going to make me, should I say, deviate or digress a little, because you see what you just said right now about, Burna Boy trying to, should I say, copy Fela too much or sound like Fela too much. And I'm going to say this with my full chest, like it's sure for me. If you want come for me on my Twitter handle, which is Chacha Music Pod. Burna Boy is the only artist that I say in this, generation of artists that comes very close to doing the original Afrobeat that Fela does. Now, whether it is sampling, whether it is copy, that's a different story entirely. But if you really, really want to look at Afrobeat, now without the S, I'm not talking about the Afrobeat with the S. Now, Afrobeat without the S, any musician that does it as close as Fela, it has to be Burna Boy. From Kigbe Soke to the one he did with Skills, Temper, to yeah. And I think one thing that has worked for Burna Boy is he has understand that, okay, you know what, this is the sound that Nigeria can deal with, but I can't do this sound as good or as better than what this person has created. So let me try and say use 50% of it, then add a lot of other elements to it, and which is where there's the debate of, Burna Boy calls himself an Afrofusion instead of an Afrobeat artist. And you're talking about him trying to find a signature. And I think that is where he has found his signature, why he calls himself an Afrofusion artist. Because every time you ask Burna Boy, what genre of music does he do? He will tell you Afrofusion. He doesn't really mention Afrobeat, even though some people are still saying, he's an Afrobeat artist. But he will come out and say Afrofusion. And I think that is what he's trying to, own as his own. Like, okay, you know what? Yes, I might not be the one that created the term Afrofusion, but if you think about Afrofusion as a genre of music, the first thing that comes to your mind will be Burna Boy, just like how you think about Afrobeat without the S, and the first thing that comes to your mind is Fela Anikulapo Kuti. But like I said, that is by the way. Let's come back to the album, and let me ask you this. Now, I found it a bit, quite interesting when you said Science, one of the first songs you connected to on the album. If I'm to pick a song on the album that I won't say is a bad song, but it's just there, like I'll say album fillers. That's what we call them, just to patch up the whole album. By the way, for those of you that don't know, the album contains 19 tracks, so I just have to quickly throw that in. Now, for me, I think like Science is one of
fillers there for 19.
So I feel like
album,
exactly, and I feel like Science is one of those album fillers because Science for me sounds so much like is it what's the name of this song? Anybody want to surgery?
Yeah, that's what people
it sounds so much. So I feel like maybe they just shuffle the beat around and it just quickly did something on the beat, and that's why I feel like that song sounds so much like that. But one song that I forgot to mention that I feel like I really love is because of, I think, the pen game was the track 18, the one titled How Bad Could It Be? I don't know, for whatever reason, I love that song. So let me ask you this, Chiamaka. What song would you say did not really live up to your standard? Might not be a bad song in general, but compared to every other song that you've listened to on the album, what song would you say did not live up to your standard? That's the first question. Then the second question that we are going to use to wrap it all up is, in general, if you have to rate the album a 1 to 10, what rating will you give the album and why?
Okay, so first of all, I don't think I even finished the last question, right? Because we're talking about Fela. But just to touch on that briefly, I'll say the other two songs I liked. I liked Jagele, and I liked Tony and Sin featuring Popcaan.
I love that song too. I love that song too.
Perfect, man. Popcaan and Burna, they are also like a good collab mix. Yes, I really love those two. And then now to your question of those songs that were really just fillers for me. I would definitely say Vanilla. I honestly didn't feel that song. I absolutely hated the last one. The very last album.
Love Damini, the name of the album itself.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I just didn't like it, and I don't know. The ending was off, like totally off. I was expecting so much from an outro, and it didn't give me that. So I'll say yeah. And I think maybe Hands on Me, or is it Hands Over Me? The one with Ed Sheeran. So basically, I think that one for me, well, it brought about the popularity that he did because it's Ed Sheeran, obviously. And I mean, everybody's still on the whole Ed Sheeran Fireboy Peru vibe. I mean, we get that. But then I just don't feel, there are just some collabs that just click. Burna and J-Hus. Burna I won't really say Burna and Popcaan, but yeah, Burna and J Horse, for instance, they just, I don't know. I don't think there's any collab that they've done that is not fire, right? But I don't really see that match made in heaven with Ed Sheeran for Burna, right? And I mean, personally, I feel like that song was just really more of a business decision than anything for promotion of the album. But I mean, it is what it is. Sorry for all Ed Sheeran fans listening to this so far. That's my take on it.
They'll come for you.
Let them come. I'm ready. Yeah. So I mean, that's really, those are my feelers for me. General rating right now, I know that my ratings are subjective to change, but right now I would say that album is a 7. It's on a 7 for me. It could be an 8 in the next month. Who knows? Hopefully it will mature to that stage.
I think for me, yes, I'm going to give the album a 7/10 because one, I feel like they could have, if the album was, let's say, about 10 or 11 tracks, I think could have been like a perfect, 8 or 9/10 album. But the fact that they had, 19 tracks and, like we said, it's a good album, right? But it's not exceptional. You won't listen to the album and you say, wow. Burna Boy did, because I don't want to try and go to this, but I have to go to this. We've listened to African Giants and we've listened to Twice as Tall, right? And we know what he did on those albums. And we are now listening to this. And we are now listening to this and we feel like, okay, yes, like we said, it's a good album, but you can't compare it to the previous 2 albums and say, oh, he outdid himself, on this album. I feel like this was just an album just to celebrate where he is. You know that thing when they say, I see Burna Boy in a level whereby at this point, for me as a person, I don't feel like he has anything else to prove. And whatever he does now is just doing music to enjoy himself, and he wants to create the kind of music he wants to create for himself, and maybe for any other fans, that fall in love with the music, right? Like I rightly said, it is a good album without any doubt, but you can't say it's going to be like, oh, one of Burna Boy's greatest album, or maybe Burna Boy outdid himself. It's a good album that if you pick up, I can guarantee you that at least you still find nothing less than 7 to 8 songs that you definitely, enjoy, and you still keep going back to and say, oh, I want to go back to this song, I want to go back to that song. Chiamaka, to just wrap it up, let me just ask you a very tricky question. I will use that to, wrap up. In the next 2-3 months, do you see yourself playing this album every day, or maybe once in a week, or twice in 2 weeks? 60 seconds.
Well, to be okay. Well, to be fair, it's like I can't really say for now. But with the way my mindset is about the song, I personally feel that I may not necessarily play the album at a stretch, because, like I said, I hated the outro, right? I hated the outro. So for me to listen and then hear that outro again and again, just no. But I personally feel like I have some favorites on this album. I'll definitely be listening to the album again for more favorites. And then once I've found those permanent favorites, I'm just going to stick with them, put them on a different playlist, and then jam them away, as the months go by.
All right, she's going to jam her favorite songs away as the months go by. As for me, I don't already create playlists for my own favorite song, and I don't jam them away. Talking about jamming away, this is how we come to the end of the podcast. Yes, but Chiamaka, before I allow you go, I mean, if they want to come for you, all those Sheeran fans where you attack, if they want to come for you, how can they talk for you? Tell us about your social media platform, and also, your podcast, because a little bit just told me you're also a podcaster. So tell them something.
Yeah. Thank you, Chacha. Yeah, so I mean, please, I don't receive hits. In fact, I'm just like, when I give you hits, I will just ignore you. I love the way that guy has me stand out. I will totally air you. But really, if you want to connect with me, my socials, Instagram at chiamaka.dk, that's D and K, and then Instagram at chiamakadk. So the difference that Twitter is together, Instagram there's a dot between the Chiamaka end. decade. That's all. And also my podcast, you guys. I'm starting a new podcast very, very soon. It's According to Chi, right? So just check out for According to Chi on both Twitter and Instagram. And, you know, I'll be posting promotional stuff to get to know me more and to get to know the pod more until I launch. So, yeah, just stick with me on that, guys.
All right. Make sure you watch out for the new podcast, According to Chi. And according to Artiste, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of the Cha-Cha Nation, this is the end of this episode. Till I come here with another episode, remember, keep the energy, keep it 100, and keep it positive. Peace out.
Cha-cha time, two time for the Cha-Cha gang. Give me the Cha-Cha gang. Rockin' with the best, the Cha-Cha gang. Give me the Cha-Cha gang. Alayela with Cha-Cha gang. Give me the Cha-Cha gang. What's in my body, Cha-Cha gang. Give me the Cha-Cha gang, Cha-Cha gang.
What's in my body? Artiste, Cha-Cha gang. Cha-Cha Nation, thank you. One love.